The Orca surfaced slowly, eyes locked on the man who had trained him for 13 years. The crowd cheered, then gasped as Zayne Marston dove in one final time. Seconds later, silence fell across the stadium. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Zayne stood motionless at the edge of the performance platform, the glossy sheen of salt water beneath his boots reflecting the late morning sun. The amphitheater pulsed with anticipation. Rows of tourists leaned forward, phones lifted, expecting another seamless display of synchronized magic. But Zayne's posture was different today. No exaggerated hand signals, no forced smile, just a stillness that unsettled the veteran trainers watching from the wings. In the pool, Cairo breached, slicing the water like a living torpedo before settling with a low whistle. The Orca's massive body floated toward Zayne with unnerving calm, his dorsal fin rising like a black sail. The animal's usual exuberance, his signature spin or fluke slap, was gone. Instead, his eyes, intelligent and unblinking, fixed on Zayne as if searching for unspoken answers. Zayne lowered himself to one knee, his wetsuit creasing at the joints, and extended his hand toward the water. The audience, expecting spectacle, shifted restlessly. But Zayne wasn't performing for them. He was saying goodbye. Their final routine wasn't scripted. Zayne didn't cue the hoop jump or the crowd splash. He simply let Cairo circle, pausing each time beside him, pausing a little longer, the rhythm between them growing stiller, heavier. In the control booth, a junior tech whispered, "Something's off." But no one stopped the show. Zayne was trusted, revered, untouchable. Then, in a move that shattered every regulation and training protocol, Zayne slipped into the water. A wave of gasps rippled through the stands. Trainers watching on monitors froze. Even Cairo stilled mid-paddle, confused. Zayne emerged with a slow breaststroke, cutting through the glittering blue toward his longtime companion. The Orca responded with a soft click, then nudged forward until the two floated side by side. Zayne placed a hand against the side of Cairo's head, just beneath the blowhole. His eyes closed, lips moving in silent rhythm. A prayer? A farewell? The cameras couldn't catch the words, only the moment. And in that moment, as the trainer and the Orca remained suspended together, man and beast, tethered by 2 decades of trust, the silence was deafening. The audience didn't cheer. They didn't clap. They just watched, as if they instinctively knew they were witnessing something sacred, something final. What followed would burn itself into global memory. But in that sliver of time, nothing moved except the water and the quiet language of goodbye. The moment Zayne's body slipped into the pool, time seemed to split. For the audience, it was a curious deviation from routine. A beloved trainer breaking the invisible fourth wall of performance. For the handlers behind the glass in the operations booth, it was a red flag emergency. But for Cairo, it was something deeper. The water trembled as he hovered inches from Zayne's chest, his obsidian eye blinking with unsettling focus. Zayne's hand lingered between the dorsal fin and the soft gray curve beneath Cairo's eye patch. His touch, feather light, but deliberate. It was their signature moment, never meant for the public. In private sessions, it was how Zayne calmed the Orca during illness, injury, and storm. Now it was something else entirely, a silent surrender. No whistles, no hand signals, just breath and proximity. Just trust. Then, without warning, no thrash, no warning roar, Cairo lunged. The moment was so fast, some viewers didn't register it. Others caught it frame by frame on slowed-down replays. 1 second, Zayne floated, calm and suspended like driftwood. The next, his torso disappeared beneath a flash of black and white muscle. Screams tore across the grandstand. Someone dropped a soda. Another dropped their phone. One child began clapping, thinking it was part of the act, until their mother pulled them back, her face bloodless. The surface exploded in concentric waves. A fluke slapped the air like a thunderclap. Then, stillness. Too sudden. Only ripples remained, and a floating shoe. From behind the glass barrier, senior trainer Meredith Cole slammed her fist against the emergency gate release. "Manual override now!" she shouted. But the system had a 5-second delay. 5 seconds that might as well have been 5 years. Underwater, a storm of froth masked the violence, but red began to bloom, subtle at first, then unmistakable, like ink in a glass of water. The crowd was no longer seated. Some people ran toward exits, others stood frozen, hands over mouths, eyes locked on the darkened pool. A toddler sobbed into her father's shirt. A teen live-streamed the chaos, breathlessly narrating, "He's not coming up. He's not. Oh my God, he's not." On the jumbo screen above the tank, a frozen image of Cairo mid-jump from minutes earlier lingered, distorted by digital artifacts. Below it, the water churned with haunting indifference. No splashy music played, no voiceover boomed, only silence, and the low hum of panic building into horror. Zayne Marston, once the face of Ocean World's most iconic partnership, had vanished beneath the waves, and the world would never see him surface again. The official statement landed with clinical detachment. Ocean World mourns the loss of senior trainer Zayne Marston following a tragic accident during a scheduled Orca performance. We extend our condolences to his family and the entire Ocean World team. But outside the park's PR walls, a storm brewed with teeth. Zayne's body, recovered by emergency divers beneath the stilling surface of Tank 4, bore no lacerations, no punctures from teeth, no missing limbs, just a collapsed rib cage, as if he'd been caught in the sudden crush of a vault door slamming shut. The autopsy confirmed it. Blunt force trauma, the kind caused by one powerful movement from a creature weighing nearly 6 tons. There was no malice in the injury, only magnitude. But the truth, as always, resisted neat packaging. It wasn't long before someone inside the park leaked footage, first grainy, then high definition. A silent clip from a staff-only briefing 3 days prior. Zayne standing before the board, shoulders square, voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You're breaking him," he said. "Cairo isn't a bus route. You can't uproot an animal this emotionally bonded to a human without psychological collapse. If you do this, he won't understand. He'll act out." A pause. Laughter. A man off camera, the voice would later be matched to COO Randall Ellis, chuckled dryly. "He's an animal, Zayne, not your son." The video went viral in hours. News anchors stopped referring to the event as an accident. Animal behaviorists were pulled onto panels. Former trainers emerged from silence. The discussion turned. This wasn't just about a man and a whale. It was about a system that prized spectacle over sentience. Kayla Tran, a retired Orca trainer, appeared on national television with tear-lined eyes. "Cairo didn't attack," she said. "Watch the footage closely. He doesn't thrash or tear. He spins. He nudges. Zayne goes under at the wrong angle, right beneath the pectoral fin. It was panic, not rage. The Orca didn't know what to do." Internet sleuths dissected every frame of the infamous clip, syncing Zayne's final movements with Cairo's trajectory. "It looks like Cairo was trying to lift him," one analyst explained. "But the pressure, it caved in his ribs instead. He just didn't know his strength, or how fragile we really are." And slowly, public sentiment shifted. The story was no longer about a performer lost in a freak accident. It was about love misunderstood, warnings ignored, and the catastrophic price of treating emotional creatures like props. Zayne had begged them to listen. Cairo had cried in ways no one understood. Now the world was finally watching, but far too late. A week had passed, but time held no meaning inside the towering acrylic walls of Ocean World's once majestic stadium. The echo of cheers had long faded. The souvenir shops stood shuttered, their shelves still lined with plush orcas now coated in a fine film of dust. Beneath the searing Florida sun, silence settled over the compound like a thick veil. But in the main tank, Tank 4, the water never stilled. Cairo circled, endlessly. With methodical, aching rhythm, the 19-year-old Orca swam a perfect loop that always brought him back to the same precise point. The southeast corner, just beneath the trainer platform. The place where Zayne had entered the water that final time, where their unspoken farewell had unfolded in a blur of grace, grief, and unimaginable force. He would hover there, pause, rise just enough that the tip of his rostrum broke the surface, then dive again, disappearing into the depths as if trying to summon a ghost. Senior marine biologist Clara Mendez, one of the few staff members who hadn't resigned, recorded his behavior with growing concern. "He's not hunting, not playing," she wrote in her field notes. "He ignores the enrichment tools. He avoids contact with other orcas. He won't even approach his feeders." Then came the line that froze every reader. "Cairo appears to be grieving. Deeply." A CNN anchor repeated it word for word on a primetime segment. The footage of Zayne's final performance had spread across platforms like wildfire, not because people were obsessed with death, but because something in those last seconds defied explanation. The way Zayne hesitated before diving. The way Cairo surfaced, vocalizing plaintively moments before. The glint of understanding in the trainer's eyes. Or perhaps something deeper, a kind of surrender. Experts debated. Was this a tragic accident? A psychological break from captivity? Or an animal, desperate and intelligent, responding to abandonment the only way it knew how? The debate mattered little to the public. What stuck was the heartbreak, the raw, visible ache in Cairo's solitary circuit, the stillness of the stadium, its stage now transformed into a memorial. A smooth marble plaque, mounted behind a locked gate, read in quiet reverence. He believed in connection. He died trying to prove it. Ocean World filed for bankruptcy 2 months later. The rides closed. The animals were relocated, all except Cairo. No facility would take him, not after what happened, not with his incident history. So he remained, in the only home he had ever known. Each morning, his loop began again, always ending in that same empty place. Some call it obsession, others call it instinct, but the trainers who stayed called it something else: waiting.